Okay, let me ask you. At this time, you obviously, pastor was not in your radar of what you wanted to be.
No, not at all.
Where were you leaning, or you didn't know in terms of career, in terms of next stage?
So my plan was to be rich. That was my career plan. like I didn't care how. I just knew I wanted to get money. Yeah? I mean, my folks worked for, like I said, my dad worked for the government, so money was just barely enough. It was enough to give you an education, to leave you fed, but there was never, those things where you're told, do you think I'm made of money? I mean, I grew up knowing that we're not made of money and there's never enough money. So in my mind, I was like, I need to be rich. And so it was like whatever career. So I remember when we were going, again, that same Form 4, but I think that was one of the most profound years of my life. Because I remember that year, I was trying to figure out what do I do for my, because those days we'd have A-levels. So it was like, what do I do for A-levels? And I remember talking to my dad. He was very absent-minded that day. We're going to school. I was going back to school now. He decided to drop me. And so in his pickup. So as we were heading to school, I asked the guy, Dad, what is one career that you know guys make a lot of money in? And the guy, I think he's just as he's thinking, probably just thinking his own things. He didn't even really pay attention to what I was asking, but he just said, my richest friends are pharmacists. So I was like, I didn't even say anything else.
Noted.
When I went to school, I just filled out career. That's the subjects I picked that would take me to do. I picked sciences to get me there. And so my ambition was to be a rich pharmacist. And
you go back to Nairobi school?
Went back to Nairobi school.
Okay.
Actually, initially, I'd been even selected I'd been called to Alliance, so I was actually supposed to go to Alliance. But then Nairobi school made me an offer. And so I actually went back to Nairobi school. And because I was playing rugby for them, I mean, they actually really made it easy for me to go back.
Scholarship-wise?
But also just, I don't know, it's like...
benefits.
There were just some things that just made it. And it was my friends, so... I mean, my parents really wanted me to go to Alliance. And in retrospect, they were probably right. But I decided I want to go back to Patch. I was known, so I went back to Patch. And so I did sciences. The only thing is now, I think I got saved in Form 4, but now my Form 5, Form 6, my Christianity was very shaky. I mean, I think I got into the wrong company, my buddies. And it's not that they were bad people, but I think it's just that this is who you are, And so I think also the sports life and all that. So I didn't do as well in my Form 6 exams. And I think part of it was... And then also a few of my teachers knew who I really was, could see through. And so, like, I remember my maths teacher really frustrated me. He just wanted me to fail because he was like, I see you. I know you. Don't think you fool me. You know those guys who are like, I know what you are. And my housemaster, he was like, dude. I mean, like, it's like a couple of people really saw through who I was. And so I think being in a situation where everybody knew your past also conspired to keep me in
I
that
get what
space,
you mean. So they're like, you haven't changed. What do you mean? You can't just go and change.
Exactly. So I think, and sometimes I think that's the thing about people knowing you too much in your past. That the people who are too much friends of your past who want to keep you in the past, or relationships of the past that keep you in the past. And I feel like that was my story of Form 5 and Form 6. That my relationships were very oriented with who I had been as opposed to who I wanted to become.
There's a book that you've written, and I sort of want to bring this book into the picture right now, just because of what you're talking about. It's Seasons. The name of the book is?
Seasons, Stages of a Leader's Life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, this stage, again, I love what the book does because it breaks down different age groups, and it talks about the different things to concentrate in those seasons. From 0 to 10, you talk about
0 to 10 is foundations, and what I talk about the fact is that many times, like, our folks may not have known how to build the foundations for us. Like I said, we grew up unsupervised. You came back from school and you just did your thing. Nowadays, I think parents are a lot more supervisory, but I think they still focus on, you want your kid to go to the best schools, you want them to do league indogo, you want them to do all those things so they can play for Manu. I mean, it's almost like a thing where we're now becoming helicopter parents. But the question is, what do you really need to build in those first 10 years? And the key thing that you really need to build, and this is just from our experience, because my wife and I, Caro is a psychologist. We've done a lot of courses, we've done a lot of parenting things, we've got mentors who've taught us a lot about parenting. And when you talk to different people, you realize the thing that really matters in the first 10 years is your values. you have to build in your kids a foundation of character. So if you don't teach your kids to listen to to authority, hey, why am I doing it? Because I'm your dad and I've said it. If you don't teach your kids that that is actually how it should be when they're young, and what happens for many of us is we indulge our kids. You know, kids are chaotic. They're born with chaos. You're the one with order. But what happens for many families when a child enters your family becomes chaotic, as opposed to you giving order to the child.
You take on the kids' culture.
You take on the kids' culture, exactly, as opposed to passing on your culture. So you find that people are coming out of school and going to the workplace, and they have no ability to follow instructions.
Or listen to authority.
And it's like the boss says, this is how we're doing it, and the guy is like, but there are other ways to do it. I mean, this guy thinks he's the only one who can think in this company.
Yeah.
And anyway, I don't even feel like I want to do it his way. And you find young people nowadays, it's like they cannot listen. Everybody wants to be their own boss. Because it's like, I can't even follow instructions. And the problem is you can't be a good leader if you can't be a good follower. The guys who tend to be leaders, try to be leaders before their followers become tyrants. And so it's almost like teaching your child obedience, or teaching your child delayed gratification.
Yeah.
Some of those things that when you teach your child at this age, they will always have them. You know, teaching your child not to demand it now. You know, dessert comes after you've eaten food. You know, rest comes after you've worked. So some of those values, we talk about them in the book as being the most important things. Yes, academics are important, but today's world, and I think you guys are witnesses to this.
Yeah.
Today's world, it's not academics that will help you succeed in life. You know, in fact, the academics are hired by the guys who make money. And so for me,
it's true.
Yeah. And so for me, I'm like, no, teach your child to be a leader. And so in those first few years, that foundation is what's most important.
And part of the reason why I brought it up is because in your generation, it's different from in mine, and it's different from in my kids.
Yeah.
So in yours, it was almost like a given default that these values were passed in. You are not going to start telling dad, but I think like, or that it was almost dictated. You get?
Yeah, you did not think about that. Yeah, exactly.
But let's also move now into the second, and in fact, this was the core of my question. The second phase. It's now from
11
uh-huh.
Now going on to about 25.
And what is now
the most important thing there, you know, again, parents think it's academics, it's what grades you got, it's what university you're able to go into, and those things are helpful. I'm not knocking them. But I think the most important thing at this stage is the ability to make positive friendships. I told you what happened to me at Word of Life. I actually met guys who became positive friends. And back in my story, those guys actually became my anchor. Because like when I went back to the school, they only knew my past. And it was very hard for me to break out in that context. But because of knowing guys like I said, Kina Pete, other friends, those guys became my anchors, even into college. And those are the guys who eventually helped me to turn around and begin to make the friendships that help me now even influence my former friendships. Because in your teens, you can't stand alone. That's a stage when you need your peers. Your peers have a bigger voice than anybody else. It doesn't matter what your parents say is cool. If your peers don't say the same thing, your parents they don't know what they're saying.
That's where the word peer pressure actually gets its genesis.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, as a parent, your biggest thing is to teach your child how to make positive friendships, how to influence their friends positively. So one of the things we do with our kids is we invite their friends over. We want their friends to feel familiar and easy. We want to teach our kids how to even make friends. We've actually talked about how do you make friends. We've taught them not to go with the crowd. Don't look for the popular kids because often the popular kids have no idea why they're popular, you know. And so because of that, they have leadership without responsibility. So you be the leader. Go into the space, find the kid who isn't talking. Get to know about them, those deep ones. And be the one who draws out people. And when you do that with what you're building is called emotional intelligence. The ability to get people to work with you and to work for you. And
which is everything in terms of employment right now.
Completely.
Everything.
I mean, I can't tell you how many kids, because I'm an employer and I get a lot of young interns coming into my firm. I can't tell you how people struggle when they don't know how to get to work with people. You can find somebody who got A's, straight A's in college. But they're so awkward in relationships.
They can't eye contact, nothing.
They can't do eye contact. They can't help people. I mean, it's not like when I'm overloaded with work. I call Richie and I say, Richie, come, I'll make you pizza, let's sit down. I mean, you're able to delegate, you can get people working with you. And leadership is about people working with you. So again, you get your child to focus on grades and you don't teach them how to have emotional intelligence at that season, they'll end up becoming a good employee for somebody who has emotional intelligence. Somebody who was a C student, but knows how to rally people around to work for them. Whether you're employed or whether you are you own a company, you must be good at making people want to work for you, in a sense.
Yo, that is so true. Hey, thanks for sharing that nugget. Get the book. It's scrolling down. Details on how to get the book have been scrolling down. Okay, let's go on with this story. So now, Form 6 done. A-levels done.
A-levels done.
Yeah.
Survived. I mean, as a guy who was top in my school in O-levels, by A-levels I barely scraped into campus.
That's crazy. And do you think, and what I'm hearing you say is friendships played part of that role?
A big part in that. A big part in that, yeah. And not being able to connect with the right people at that time. So it's important. But I did make it into campus, fortunately. And not all my friends at TU were retrogressive. I did have a small core of guys. And I thank God, because there's a couple of really good friends that I had in Patch who, even though they were not saved, they were moral people. They had good values. And I also think that's what also saved me, in a sense, because that's the age when you start sleeping around. That's the age when people just lost it, got addicted to porn. I mean, but because this little core of guys just had values. I remember a couple of my buddies where we would just say, you know, I mean, girls like us because we were popular, but we're not going to be sluts. We're not going to sleep around with girls. Just the same way, if they sleep around with us, they'll be sluts. Why should you be? I mean, that's a kind of conversation. I mean, who talks like that?
Yeah.
It was because of having the right friends. And I look back now and I think if I had the wrong friends, I'd have made some really crazy choices in that A-level college life. But being surrounded by a couple of these really, really good friends, who are still, some of them are still friends till today, and didn't get saved, but good people around. So positive friendships, so critical in that season in the choices you make.
And your friends probably got those values instilled in them at a young age.
Because of their folks. Again, yeah, exactly.
That's crazy. It explains now, and we'll enter that book that you've written about parenting, but it explains why all of these pieces come together.
Your parents play a big part. I tell you, it's so interesting how, when I look back at it now, I even think those same friends, and again, like I remember one came from a Catholic background, so not Christian. Another one even was an unchurched completely. They didn't even go to church, but somehow they had been taught certain values. And they were cool people. So, I mean, they played sports like me. So because I had 4 friends who thought like me, then it was okay for me to think like that.
Yeah.
I can tell you, if you're alone and you're the only one who thinks like that, it's very hard for you to survive in that kind of context.
Especially in that age.
Especially at that age, yeah.
Okay, so you go to campus.
So finish school, first of all, us guys used to go to a place called NYS, which was like 3 months of paramilitary training in the bush, which was another
compulsory.
Compulsory. If you wanted to go to campus those days, you had to go to NYS, to a state university. So
that's so cool. I wish that was there.
I wish it was, by the way. It was a fantastic idea. It wasn't executed always the best way, but it gave you a sense of responsibility. It caused a sense of teamwork. It was almost a generational thing because it was people from all over Kenya that would come and live in these barracks. And you would do all kinds of intense, crazy things. I mean, waking up at 3, doing runs in the night, digging. I mean, you did all kinds of crazy national youth things.
Yeah.
For us coming from Patch, it was child's play because Patch was a concentration camp. That's another whole story. I mean, to survive Patch in those days, I mean, we used to say Patch made men.
Yeah.
That was our thing. Nairobi school made men. If you went through Nairobi school and you survived, you are
You're
tough.
good.
You could go anywhere and survive. Huh? And so for us, we found NYS pretty easy.
Yeah.
So 3 months of that, graduated. In fact, Patch guys were such thugs. Like when we went to NYS, you're supposed to be scattered all over because it's a huge setup. You can imagine all the public universities in all those students who are going to enter in one space.
That's crazy.
And they scatter you in all the barracks. The Patch guys figured out how to rig themselves into one barracks. so all of us were in one barracks. And I mean, it was just troublemaking from day one. But we had a lot of fun. So we went to university, and around that time, that's when I met Carol, my wife.
Now in university.
Yeah, so just before university, again, really connected a lot with. So Kina Pete, some of those guys were going to Nairobi Baptist. So I started going to Nairobi Baptist after A levels, and that was also very helpful because.
And this is the first time you're going to church by your own choice.
Exactly. In fact, to church. Period. Since I was in Form 1, you know. So I started going to Nairobi Baptist, and now I started meeting some really interesting people. Started getting involved, and Carol and her sister, she was a very new believer, so she was getting involved in that as well.
What time period are we talking about? Early 90s?
So this was still late 80s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Paint us a picture of urban, because Nairobi Chapel was urban. That was the cutting edge.
So this was pre-Nairobi Chapel.
Not even Nairobi, sorry, Nairobi Baptist.
Nairobi Baptist, yes.
Nairobi
it
Baptist.
was now cutting edge. Huh?